So the next story I want to tell you, this is Lazzari Chronicles episode 2. So this is my I joined the military story. So I was a junior in high school and going into my senior year, and I had a girlfriend, and we had a baby together. And I did really crappy in high school. Barely made grades, barely graduated. Hated school, hated all of that. Just didn't matter to me at the time. I don't even think I could spell college. And that wasn't in the cards for me. That wasn't an option. And so I didn't know, what I was going to do, really, to be honest with you. And it didn't dawn on me what I was going to do or how I was going to do it. Didn't put much thought into it at all. I came home from school one day and I got a call on the house phone. And I say house phone because, back then, we had phones in our house that actually had a number signed to it, house phone. And I'd tell my kids the story and they're like, what's a house phone? We don't have a house phone, we all just have cell phones nowadays, but so it's kind of funny. So anyway, I get a call on my house phone and it's this recruiter, Army recruiter, I don't remember his name, staff sergeant, somebody. And he says, so, you ever thought about joining the Army? And I was like, no, never thought about it. And he goes, well, would you consider talking to me at some point about maybe joining? I'm like, sure. And he goes, really? I'm like, yeah. He goes, all right, well, when are you available to come down and talk with me? And I was like, well, what are you doing right now? And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, nothing. I said, well, I can come down now if you want. And he's like, you messing with me? I'm like, no. He goes, well, let me get you the address. I'm like, no, I'm all set. I know where it is. It's a, strip mall downtown right next to the, Marine Corps and Navy. And I think most towns have that, the little strip mall with all the services in it. And he goes, yeah. I was like, all right, well, I know where it is. I'll be down. It's like, all right. So I, hop in my truck and head on down there. And I walk in and he kind of looks at me kind of weird. And I say, I'm the guy you just talked with on the phone a little bit ago. He goes, oh, damn, you actually came down. I was like, yeah. I said I'd be right down, and here I am. He says, I swore you were just messing with me. I didn't think you were actually serious about it. I thought you were just playing around. I was like, well, nah. He goes, I make a lot of phone calls, try to get people in, and, no one's ever just went from not ever thinking about joining the military to standing in my office, like, all within, like, the same hour. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm not like most people. So he's like, well, have you given any thought to what you might want to do? And I was like, well, I was like, I think being a military police would be cool. He goes, yeah, an MP. He goes, that's my MOS. That's what my job is when I'm not a recruiter. I'm like, oh, well, all right then. So, he was a military police, so he had an affinity for that job. So I think he took it a little personal in terms of helping me out, getting me in and all that. So he says, so what'd you score on the ASVAB test? I'm like, the ASVAB? He goes, it's that optional test that they give you in high school. I'm like, dude, I was like, I hated taking mandatory tests. There's no way I was wasting my time on an optional, not required test. He goes, so you never took the ASVAB? I'm like, hell no, I never took the ASVAB. He goes, well, we're going to need you to take the ASVAB so we can figure out what your GT score is. I'm like, all right. I didn't know what any of that meant at the time, so I was like, cool. So I think we went, I don't know, I can't remember if I took the test there in his office or if we went to the MEPS station in Salt Lake City. I can't remember. But I ended up taking the ASVAB. Didn't do very well on it, but whatever. I told you I didn't like school already. And he says, well, he goes, it's going to be tough to get me to get you into this military police position, but let me see what I can do. He ends up pulling some strings and doing whatever recruiters do, and he comes back and says, yep, you're good to go. So he drove me up to the MEP station in Salt Lake, which is like 2.5, 3 hours away from the town I grew up in, and we went in there and did our thing, and I raised my hand and all this, and this was like the summer between my junior and senior year. And then so I'm basically, I signed the papers basically to agree to go to basic when I graduate high school. And so I ended up going back to school and ended up getting into an accident. Well, I call it an accident. It was a purposeful accident that I damaged some guy's property. Long story, I won't get into it. But anyway, I got brought up on charges and had to pay restitution and all that fun stuff. I was a minor at the time, and even though it went on my minor record, it was still a record. And I, told the recruiter about it, kind of gave him the story. And he goes, oh man, he ended up calling whoever he had to call, and he says, that's too bad, man. He goes, you've got to pick a different job. You can't be an MP now. I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. He goes, all right, well, what else do you want to do? I'm like, man, you're the Army guy. I don't know. It's like, I guess if I can't be a cop or a military police, I guess the next best thing is a firefighter. He goes, yeah, I could square you away with being a firefighter. I'm like, I didn't even know the Army had firefighters. Is that a thing? And he goes, oh yeah, the Army's got firefighter. I'm like, cool. So he drives me back up to the MEP station, and I look at this job description, and it's fire support specialist. I'm like, right on, man. That's definitely right up my alley. I don't know exactly what they do, but fire support specialist is definitely, firefighter in my book. I mean, it's like the military version of it. So I'm good to go. So I ended up going to, I graduated high school barely, and I load out, get on the bus, I head out, I end up going to basic training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and then I went to AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, also at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And for those of you playing at home, not everybody does their basic training in AIT at the same place. So you could potentially go to basic training at one location, and then when you graduate basic, then you get shipped out to your, the other location where you do your advanced individual training that's specific to your MOS or your military occupational specialty. So in my case, I ended up doing basic training in AIT at the same base, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And so when I was in basic, I was in basic with a bunch of other guys that had different MOSs. So I didn't really have a chance to interact with people with my specific MOS per se until I actually got to AIT. And then we got to AIT, and it started off with, a lot of in-classroom type training and teaching and things like that. And we're learning how to read a map, and I'm learning how to come up with a 6-digit grid, and we're using like compass and protractor, and we're learning about indirect fire and artillery and calling for fire. And I'm like, what is this all about? I'm like, I'm in the wrong damn AIT. I'm like, I'm supposed to be like learning how to climb ladders and scale buildings and put out fires, I guess, is in my mind what I'm thinking I should be doing. And I started asking some guys that I was with, and I'm like, are you a fire support specialist? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what is that? Is that like a firefighter? And they're like, no, man. What do you mean firefighter? And I'm like, so what the hell is it? And he goes, well, we're field artillery, and we engage the enemy with indirect fire. I'm like, indirect fire? He goes, artillery, MLRS, multiple launch rocket systems, CAS or close air support, naval gunfire. And I'm like, my mind is blown, right? And I'm like, wow, this isn't what I thought my job was going to be. So thumbs up to my recruiter for giving me the once-over, the okie doke, and ended up being a fire sports specialist, all right, but not anything like I thought it was going to be. But in the long run, he did me a favor because I ended up really enjoying and loving my actual job as a fire sports specialist, and can honestly tell you that I probably would not have enjoyed actually being a firefighter in the Army. And oh, by the way, there is no such thing. So if your recruiter tells you you're going to be a firefighter in the Army, he's lying to you. He's probably trying to get you to be a fire sports specialist, which, if that's the case, then I would definitely go for it. But anyway, that is my how did I join the Army story. So for all of you out there that are got a similar story, I would love to hear it. Just record yourself a 10 to 15 minute video, post it on YouTube, send me the YouTube link at my email address, eddie@changeyourpov.com, and I will add you to our story section on my website, changeyourpov.com. I would love to hear your story. Until next time.